to you by Barfoot and Thompson.
On the show today, we're chatting with Alana and Simon from Reapit and Joseph from Barfoot and Thompson, all things software, AI and business development. Welcome back to Property Matters. Welcome along. Great to be back. Hope you all had a fabulous long weekend last weekend, although my guests today are actually here on their own public holiday because it's King's birthday a week later in Australia, but we won't make any rude Aussie jokes about them being a week behind. We're just very grateful to have them both here. Welcome Alana DeGee and Simon Cashman from Reapit Australia. And, well, do I say Australia? You're international, really, aren't you?
Absolutely.
From Reapit. Welcome. Thanks for coming across. And welcome back, Joseph, Business Development Manager at Barfoot and Thompson.
Hello.
Great to have you back. We're going to catch up, Joseph, on what's happened in your career since we last caught up because it's developed further. But first of all, let's chat to Alana and Simon from Reapit. Thanks for coming across the ditch to chat to us tonight. We appreciate that. Now, for listeners who haven't heard of Reapit before, how would you describe what you're doing in the real estate and property management sort of world, both in Australia and New Zealand? Simon?
Thanks for having us, Stephen. Look, in short, Reapit is a technology partner for real estate agencies across Australia and New Zealand. Primarily, we help agencies manage their relationships, property data, workflows and transactions, all in a simply, one connected environment. So specifically for property management, Reapit PM supports that day-to-day operating rhythm. So over your rent roll, your arrears, your maintenance, inspections, lease renewals, communications, those sorts of things, trust accounting and reporting. So the end goal is really simple. There's less admin, there's better compliance, there's clearer visibility, and really more time to spend with your landlords and your tenants and your teams.
Nice. Okay, so it was a good introduction. How long's Reapit been around for? Because you're amalgamated some companies, haven't you?
About 9 years in Australia. Recent acquisitions accelerated over the last 7 years.
That's right, and we've also got customer bases in South Africa as well as the UK and North America. So Reapit really is a global company and continuing to grow every day.
Fantastic. So what are the biggest changes you've seen in prop tech over the last few years from the perspective of a software provider working with agencies every day?
It's a great question because the future of prop tech is really a lot more than just the number of apps that you're using. It's really about having better connected workflows. So what we really see here is a big shift around agents not wanting just more software, but having software that actually works together. That's the key part. Because property managers, you're all continuously under high pressure. You're not wanting yet another system to log into and manage. It's all about having that one system where everything lives so that you can then create that efficiency. And then, of course, AI is ever evolving and accelerating the way that we work and the way that we live. AI is starting to be prevalent in our personal lives, but it's also starting to be used in business as well. And I think in the property management space in particular, it's really exciting to see some of the efficiencies that AI is already starting to bring to the way that we work and helping us to have that more time to focus on what matters most, which is the relationships, right, with tenants and landlords.
Okay, cool. So if I'm a typical property manager, what parts of my day does Reapit touch? Like, is it mainly CRM and trust accounting and communications, or is it a full end-to-end workflow?
Absolutely, yeah, it really is fully end-to-end. So in a normal day of a property manager, Reapit can touch everything across the tenant-owner records, rent receipting, you've got the way that you manage your arrears and your workflows, lease renewals, then of course routine inspections, entry and exits. It's really the whole lot, and that goes all the way through as well to how you manage your owner and your tenant communications and of course your reporting. But the point is really a lot more than not just storing data. The point is helping the property manager to move their work forward. So it's about having a system that's not just a system of record, but a system of action where we can actually take that next step. And that's what Reapit Property Management is really designed around. It's those operational workflows, a lot more than just record keeping.
Nice. Okay. So look, if we talk about PropTech a little bit further, it can feel overwhelming. There's new apps, there's integrations, there's portals. What practical habits or systems do you recommend for agencies that want to stay up to date without constantly changing their platform?
Go for it, Alana.
It's a great question, right? Yeah, and like we see it every day. It's quite common for real estate agents to have multiple different systems at their disposal, and what we often see is that they actually have duplication within their tech. So they might have a couple of different platforms that they use, perhaps a CRM and a property management platform, but what you can find is that you're actually paying for the same thing multiple times, right? Like have a think about in your tech stack, how many uploaders do you actually have available that you can use? So what we do recommend is that agents should really just have a sit down, probably about once a quarter, and do a bit of a tech assessment. And I think that's something that can really add a lot of value, just to have a think about where that duplication might exist and where there's opportunities to simplify the tech stack and ultimately run a better business.
Look, don't chase every shiny new app is a bit of advice. So our core advice really is, optimize that core stack first that you're working with, then add specialist tools, and only when it's there and it's clear and it's operational and it's of a commercial benefit to you.
Nice, okay.
Absolutely.
So what signals should business leaders watch for that suggest it is time to review or upgrade their core software stack, as you're calling it?
Yeah, so the classic one is when your team start turning to spreadsheets to run their rent roll and to organise their day. That's a pretty clear signal that the stack is definitely telling you something, yeah.
Because we're going back to something we're comfortable with.
Exactly.
Oh, that's just how we do it, Stephen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Excel or a spreadsheet or even just a to-do list is something that everyone's uber comfortable with, and when things start to get a bit hectic and chaotic and there's lots of changes in the software that you're using day to day, you just want to go back to something familiar, right? And typically that's where inefficiencies start, because your spreadsheets aren't connected to your broader systems, and it also can pose security risks as well, because the data is starting to live in multiple places. It's in spreadsheets, it's in emails as well, and that's really when you want to start having a think about, is that the right solution, and is that how I can scale my business?
Yeah, if it means that you want to try and scale, but it means you've got to add more humans to it, you really should be having a proper assessment.
Okay, we're going to quiz Joseph later and see if he's using Excel. He's looking a bit worried in the corner. From what you're seeing in Australia and New Zealand, what prop tech capabilities are quickly becoming the non-negotiables for a modern real estate or property management company?
Yeah, it's really those tools that reduce the admin work and just improve visibility. But beyond that, it's not just the systems in isolation. It's actually about connecting what you're using as your sales CRM and your property management system together, because that's where the real opportunity lies. We often see that clients are missing sales and opportunities within their own book. So, for example, if you have a landlord that's looking to sell their property, but that lead doesn't go straight across to your sales team, like that in itself is a missed opportunity. And we see it time and time again. Property management teams don't often actually talk and connect well with their sales teams. And it's surprising, but ultimately the software tools, like they have to bring that together. Like we need to be providing the systems that have the overarching analytics and insights, so that those systems are talking to each other and so that they are integrated, so that you can have that really great clear view across your entire business of how sales and PM comes together and where those opportunities and the synergies lie as well.
Okay, let's talk about payments. So how are modern banking and payment technologies, how are they impacting you? And I guess I'm talking about things like these days, instant payments, digital wallets, open banking. We're starting to see tenants wanting to pay in different ways. How are you keeping up with all of that?
Great question. And this is something that's changing a lot in different countries around the world. Everyone's sort of up to a different point in time. But what we're seeing that is in New Zealand today, most rent payments are still done via automatic payments or bank transfer. So the focus here is really on making that process more visible to the tenants and, of course, easier for the property manager to reconcile as well. But what's really interesting is if you start to have a look at markets in other countries, such as Australia, what has been happening is an introduction of real-time payment infrastructure. So this is starting to enable things like instant payments, richer data, better automation. So tenants are actually starting to pay their rent in some countries using technology that allows it to be automatically matched and also with real-time notifications. So a tenant pays their rent and the property manager knows straight away. And what this really opens up is the efficiency gain. Because if you can imagine, if you have a tenant in your office and they have just been approved to rent it and they want the keys to the property, now you want to take the listing off the portal, you can't really do that until you know that payment's come through. Okay. So with a real-time notification, it's really game-changing.
It is.
Are you sensing that New Zealand's behind where the rest of the world is in this space?
Look, there's lots of countries that are really sort of evolving in this space, and it is changing quite quickly. And we are actually already seeing that New Zealand is starting to move in this direction. We've got open banking now that's had a lot of changes over the past few years and has now been released. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how that then continues to evolve in New Zealand around the rent payment space, because property management and real estate more generally is a great space where efficiencies can be gained with that more modern payment stack, and open banking is really just the start of it.
It's an exciting evolution, I think, for both our countries, to be honest. You know, so close we're evolving into this whole new payment process, which is, it's fascinating.
Are you seeing new options that property managers are wanting in terms of what they're wanting to offer tenants in this space as well?
Yeah. I think property managers ultimately want to make sure that their tenants have free and convenient payment options available. And a big one is transparency. So what we've seen a lot is that payment methods where the tenant is just having money taken out of their account every single week, where they really lack that level of transparency and visibility over how much is coming out, when's it coming out, do they have control to cancel it themselves? Like, this is something that technology is starting to actually provide in other countries, and I think property managers are really after that, right? They want to be trusted, they want to be seen as that advisor that is able to be relied on, and if they can provide that level of transparency to the tenant, it goes a long way.
So, sorry, I was going to say, with the property manager's point of view then, is it the biggest benefit, is it being fewer arrears, better reconciliation, reduced admin, or is there something else?
Absolutely. I mean, it's all of that. But I think beyond that, it's just having a better relationship with their clients as well, because with that level of trust and transparency, they can have a much richer relationship with their tenants. On the topic of arrears, they can make sure their landlord is getting their funds on time. So it's really a full circle. And then on top of that, of course, all of the efficiencies that then gleans for the business.
Yeah, look, in simple terms, if you reduce that manual payment administration that the officers go through every day, they get to manage more properties and they don't feel that they're burning out at the end of the week or at the end of the year, which we know is has a significant presence in property management. So if we can help administer that and make it a hell of a lot more automated for them, help them reconcile better so that the property data is clear, you can achieve those things as well. Everyone goes home healthy.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about how can you manage more properties without having to add on the same number of property managers at the rate that you're doing it today. How do you grow your portfolio without having another full-time trust accountant?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's the same in Australia, but certainly in New Zealand at the moment, we're being hammered by different payment options from an angle of, if you get, say, for example, a Sharesies card, 1% of that goes into your investment or into your KiwiSaver. If you get a One Wallet card, then a percentage of that goes into buying your next cell phone. So we're getting all these digital ways of paying that give us rewards. So I guess it's an industry that's going to have to keep up with the rewards offered as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So look, AI is such a huge buzzword, but when you strip away the hype, what's the most practical, real-world AI use cases that you are seeing property managers actually adopting today?
I think that what we've seen is that property managers are starting to adopt AI in lots of ways, both in how they're using their systems that they work with, but also just practical cases in terms of how they simply reduce admin. So, for example, one of the big ones is just helping to draft communications to tenants and landlords. I think everyone sat in front of a screen at a blank email thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to respond to this client? Like, this is a really tricky one. So I think that's a great place to start, and what we see a lot where our clients are starting to use Reapit property management and our conversations feature to draft those communications. But the key part is that they're still always in full control, because you can't have AI replacing good property managers. It's really just about enabling them to work more efficiently so that they have more time to focus on their clients.
Yeah, look, AI should assist the property manager. AI is not there to pretend to be a property manager nor take that job.
Can you walk us through perhaps a specific example of how AI might assist a property manager, for instance, perhaps handling maintenance requests or a tenant communication or arrears management?
Absolutely, yeah. So take Reapit Property Management as an example. So there's a manual maintenance workflow in there which has been used for our clients for years and years, and that's recently just been enhanced over the last week, in fact, with an AI agentic workflow. So what this is doing is taking a maintenance request that comes through from the tenant, it's figuring out what the problem is, it's understanding the context of that, it's drafting the work order, it's getting quotes, it's having that all ready at the property manager's fingertips. They're still absolutely in control, but all of the hard work is done. It's how to look at the owner instructions, it knows about the spend limits, the warranty details, and it pulls all of the information that exists in so many different places and really just centralizes that into one clear recommendation so that the property manager can then use that. They can discard it if they want, or they can use that recommendation and edit it just to make it so much more quicker for them to actually do that next best step, which is to send it to the owner for approval.
Yeah, human stays in control, always.
Yeah, that's really key, isn't it? Because you don't want to be babysitting any kind of an algorithm, and I think with AI it can always be a little bit scary when you feel like you're losing control. But what we've really sort of done with that maintenance workflow and Reapit Property Management is made sure that we just take those baby steps. It's not going to send it to the owner. It's not going to do all of these sort of tasks without you being aware. It's about presenting the recommendation as the next spec step and then waiting for further instruction from the property manager.
Look, there's understandably, concerns around using AI safely, especially around accuracy and privacy. What guidelines do you recommend as tech experts for agencies experimenting with AI tools so they don't put the client's data at risk, basically?
Absolutely. And I think it's a really important one as well because it's really easy to get a bit caught up in the hype of AI and start having to play around.
You get a bit excited. It works
Absolutely.
for a bit.
And it is exciting, right? Because you can think, how much time am I going to save? Like, what else could I use it for? But as you said, Stephen, it is really important just to take a moment to have a think about what data you're actually putting into these public AI models, because once it's out there, it's out for everyone and it will be used for those public models to train as well. So it's really important to have a think about what information you're putting in. Does it contain sensitive information about your business and your IP, or does it, more importantly, contain sensitive information about your customers, your landlords, your tenants? You should be never pasting details around that into a public AI model. So if you're using ChatGPT to draft some communications, great, but make sure that you've omitted that sensitive information about your customers, because that's really what we see a lot of when people start to get a bit excited, but sometimes they just don't take that moment to think first.
Welcome and education in AI, I think, is important. So within your office network, set an agency AI policy amongst your staff. Train your staff, educate your staff, and what's allowed, what's not allowed. These sorts of things are really important. One example, check vendor privacy terms before using any AI product. But, never let an AI provide a legal, financial, or compliance advice, I think is a massive tip. Simple rule, AI can draft, it can organise, it can suggest, it can do all those sorts of things, but at the end of the day, people approve and they decide on what the outcome should be.
That's right, and I think that even bigger businesses and real estate agents that are starting to use it and embrace it are likely already thinking about this, but having an enterprise license of one of these tools, whether you're using OpenAI or Claude, it can just give you that peace of mind that your data is locked down in an enterprise grade system where it's not getting used to train, and then that really does unlock a world of efficiencies for your team when they can actually put in that sensitive data, because you've got that safety net of having it locked in that enterprise account.
So if we look at your own company, where is Reapit currently sort of using or planning to use AI in your platform? You mentioned, your maintenance one, hot off the press, just released in the last week, but how do you ensure that those features remain transparent and controllable for your users?
Yeah, of course. So Reapit's direction is really around making sure that the AI is practical. It's not just fancy and impressive, and it's not about theatre. It needs to be useful in everyday scenarios. So the areas that make most sense for us is automating workflows. So making sure that Reapit's ecosystems go beyond just a system of record and they're providing that next best action for the property manager, the next best step, but making sure that that principle and that underlying foundation is always there, which is ensuring that AI is controllable. It's really clear in terms of what's actually being done, and it's human-led by the property manager. So we need to respect the agency's data, their permission levels, their roles, and of course compliance obligations. And what's also really interesting is that when everyone is starting to use AI, everyone starts to kind of sound the same, don't they? Like you can kind of tell. Like if someone sent you an email and you think, oh, that looks like it's a bit of a chat GPT wonder, and that's not what you want as a business.
Although I was offended recently, I typed an email in Gmail quite myself, and it said this represents an AI generator. I was like, no, that was just me. How
that
dare
that you had inside.
Yes, I was deeply offended.
Must have been a very
Sorry, I cut
grammatically
you
incorrect
off.
email then.
Yeah, exactly.
Kudos to use. So from that perspective, it's important to make sure that when you are using AI that you're prompting it correctly. You need to make sure that it's in your own tone of voice. It needs to be in the brand of your business, and that's where Reapit takes care of that for our clients. It's really about making sure that when we do use AI in our systems, it's all locked to a specific client's data set, so no client data is being used to train another customer, and that we take the tone of voice and the brand of that client and make sure that context is embedded throughout everything that AI workflow might output.
So if an individual property manager is listening to this, what's one low-risk, high-impact way they could use AI in their day-to-day work tomorrow?
I think definitely start with communication drafting. That's a really easy way to get started. That's pretty low risk. So if you're looking to respond to an email from a landlord that might be a bit tricky, or perhaps you're managing expectations with a tenant, it's a great way to pop in some dot points. You can give it some context about the conversation you've already had with them, and it can then draft an email for you so that you can then edit that as needed to then send on. The key part is, though, just don't include any sensitive client information or sensitive information about your business, whatever it might be, and just make sure that you're always doing that final review and edit before you click the send button.
Yeah, take something you've already written really badly. You know, if you've rushed an email out, or you know it's grammatically incorrect, or it's a bit dyslexic, and then just use AI to make it clearer. You're always in control, and make sure you remain in control however you use AI tools. Human first.
Yeah. With more real estate processes moving online, if we think about applications to digital signatures, now to payment portals, what kind of cyber risks should we be most aware of right now?
Oh, where to start, right?
Yeah, exactly where to start. Phishing emails, obviously we come across them. You know, weak passwords, never share logins, or never share hardware, you know, poor staff access controls. These sort of things can be very easily policed. Former employees who are still retaining access, you may not have in time, might have been a week or two of lapse and you've actually forgot to tell Jack or Jills to turn off their access. That's dangerous. Unsecured devices is part and parcel. Ransomware risk, I think. You know, if a criminal gets into an inbox and changes payment details, that sort of damage can be quite significant. So cyber risk is no longer just an IT department's issue, right? It's an operational issue, it's a financial issue, and it's a reputational risk. So you've got to much be careful with how you use it.
That's right. And you touched on it before, Simon, but the fake payment instructions, that's a really big one for businesses today. There's been billions of dollars lost globally to this problem just in the last year alone, and it's something that's really important for real estate agents as well, because if someone is able to log in to your property management system and change the account details of where those owner funds are being deposited, like that is a massive risk. And you really need to have a think about what security measures and guardrails you have in place so that there's no malicious intent possible, because if someone from your team that might have been working with you for a week or whether it be 10 years has access to change an owner's bank account details and there's no guardrails in place, for example, it might be a two-factor approval within your staff or notification to the owner if it has changed, it's really important to think about that, because we're seeing it every single day where clients are having these issues, and with the way that technology and AI is evolving, it's getting even easier for people to start manipulating this.
So in your experience, what are the most common and avoidable mistakes that real estate agencies are making when it comes to data security.
I sort of touched on a few just then. Sharing passwords. We should never share passwords.
Or shared accounts, even.
Shared accounts. Shared hardware, the same thing, because you could be logging under a password onto different hardware that may not have the proper security built into it. No MFA or 2FA, multi-factor authentication I'm talking about. Staff using personal emails for their work. It happens. Not removing access, I've touched on that before. You make sure you cut everything off the minute someone moves. That's federation blocking. Someone resigns or moves on, you can easily turn everyone off straight away. I said it before, staff should be trained better on determining or acknowledging when there's been some phishing emails coming through. And the deadly killer is assuming that we're too small to be targeted. That sometimes it's the smaller agencies that are most vulnerable.
I was going to segue into the next question, but you've kind of answered it. If I was thinking if a smaller property management business is listening and thinking, look, we don't have a massive IT team. What are 3 things that we could do and put in place? But you've kind of covered them, but you've also just said that they are also often at high risk.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's. Don't ever think that way. Don't think because you're a small agency you're not vulnerable. Cybercrime could crush a small agency in a matter of hours. So it doesn't matter whether you're as big as Barfoot and Thompson or whether you're a small branch. It's still critical that you have all of these disciplines and guardrails in place.
All right, I'm going to come back to you two a little later in the show now. It was a really good overview. A bit of a sidestep now to you, Joseph, Business Development Manager. It's been a while since we caught up. Initially, you were here as a cadet in the Barfoot and Thompson Training Academy. Then you moved to the Milford branch as their Business Development Manager. Now you've moved again. What are you up to now?
What am I up to now?
Well, it would help if you were up to a mic on and Stephen forgot. Take it away.
Okay. What am I up to now? Great question, Stephen. In work world, I am now a business development manager and trainer for support centre at Barfoot and Thompson. So half of my role is supporting the property management centre back where I started to grow so that we can in turn hire more people to become property managers and kick off their career in real estate. Exactly what I did, which was one of the best decisions I ever made. And then the other half of my role is going across branches across the region to help people become more equipped to do business development, taking some tips and tricks that I've learnt along the way.
Nice. Now, you've got we talk about AI and social media. You've got a big social media presence. You're no stranger to conferences, events, and many a hilarious social media clip as you're trying to get that phone call done. What is it about getting new business that you love so much?
I've always loved sales. I've always loved solving someone's problem and then them coming out of that situation being really happy. Started when I was a teenager, and now it's just a new problem to solve. Telling Mr. Lee that I'm going to get him $100 more for his investment property, and the glow on his face and his smile when it all came through. The tenants that moved in were so happy that they're living in a really nice property because we got it cleaned up, and then the landlord being rewarded for that as well. It was just, I don't know, it's very satisfying. So that's what I love so much about business development, is seeing happy landlords and happy tenants, because if you have a good landlord, usually the tenant will be good as well. When we see it the other way around, nasty landlord usually, unfortunately, inherits nasty tenants. So, yeah.
Look, you're part of the Barfoot and Thompson brand. What is it that makes you feel so safe to promote it the way that you do?
Well, it's a company that is over 100 years old, and the values that it stands for, family, people, diversity, these things are I really agree with them. And I love these values. I think they're very powerful because real estate's all about people. And unfortunately, growing up, you hear people talk a lot of nasty things about people in the real estate industry. And I'm like, real estate doesn't have to be like that, And it was the company I was most attracted to with what it stands for, essentially, because it's all about the people first. And that's what the company embodies. So that's why I'm so drawn to the brand, and so I feel so backed by it, and that's why I'm happy to back it.
Nice. So if Alana and Simon here were your brand new cadets and they were learning from you on business development and you're training them as business development managers, what are your top 3 tips? I'm asking for the Joseph secrets here, live on radio.
Top 3 tips.
Top 3 tips.
Well, the first one is never think about yourself, always think about the client and how you can help them. So you need to first think about the client and their problem, help their problem. Second tip is I would recommend you learn negotiation. It's a never-ending skill. It's quite fun to learn. And then the third tip in that is to just keep growing and never think, oh, I've made it now. I did this much. No, there's always more.
Never settle for mediocrity.
That's right. Never settle for mediocrity. You got it. So, yeah, those would be the top 3.
Great tips.
Can I ask how many phone calls you make a week?
A week? Between 100 and 200, depending on the week.
Wow.
It should be more, and that's just calls. That doesn't mean it always, doesn't mean the client always picks up. A phone call can be 30 seconds, 10 seconds, or 15 minutes. So,
have you mastered the art of a good voicemail?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Ring my phone later. We'll let you know. What is your long-term goal? I mean, you've been on the show before and you have advanced so much in just a couple of years. If I interview you in another 5 or 10 years' time, what will you be doing?
It's very ambitious of me to say, but I would love to be, I don't know, maybe traveling the world, entrepreneurial. Maybe I've hoped to say I've wrote a book. Here's my first book in the next 5 or 10 years. I love real estate, maybe get into development. And yeah, so I'm not sure. Got a lot of ideas, but it's also good to remain in the present and keep carving out the path that's in front of me. So yeah, hopefully in 5 years I can say, oh, I've done this and written that and been there and spoke at that. But yeah,
Well, I remember the first time I met you and I asked you, how will you know if you're successful? And you said, because I can walk down Queen Street into any shop, and if I get good customer service, I'm going to hand them my card and say, come and work for me.
That's right. That's right.
That was really cool. That was a really cool attitude. Now, look, you've heard our guests talk all about the advances in technology. Here's the Excel spreadsheet question coming. How much does technology play a part in your world as a BDM? Are you using Excel, or do you have AI bots calling people, or is it still the real Joseph making those 200 phone calls?
I can say all of the above. No, so AI has, I think, been a instrumental big part in my recent life, like utilising it not just as a Google search engine for what to cook when I get home, but actually using it to help me, as Alana mentioned, creating emails, giving it ideas and just kind of filtering through it. But recently I've started using our dear friend Mr. Claude to help me make awesome spreadsheets, not just basic spreadsheets, but really awesome ones. Like I put in a date, and then the spreadsheet will prompt me when to look at something, and then also with the people that I'm coaching and helping equip. I've also got a spreadsheet for that as well, so it tells me what I spoke to them about. So I've made nice spreadsheets in Claude, using Claude, and then I guess later down the line there will probably be conversations about implementing a bigger, more beastie CRM, but in the meantime I'm happy with
you've got it feels like you're using AI as your personal assistant.
That's
to
right.
Beef up what you've got.
It's my little VA.
Because Reapit has a BDM function, doesn't it, inside it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as a part of Reapit's lettings platform, which is formerly known as Inspect Real Estate, we have the BDM function, and it's really there, as you said, Joseph, just to help you manage those calls, those relationships, so that you're nurturing your potential next landlord.
That's cool. How do you stay so positive? If you're making up to 200 phone calls a week, I can imagine many of those are people that actually aren't interested in talking. How do you keep that positivity up and energy up?
I just try my best to never take it personally.
Yeah.
Just move on to the next one, smile, be happy, and just, that's how I do it. It's just not about me. If I think about myself and, oh, they rejected me, is it because of the way I sound? Does he think I'm too young? All these kinds of insecurities can really hinder me if I start dwelling on that. So I try not to. I try to look at, hey, okay, on to the next. I'll call them next week.
How do you get that balance right of being persistent with someone and not hitting that too much?
I think nobody's ever the same, so I allow myself to make a mistake. Let's say I called Mr. Mark a week too early and he got angry with me. I go, okay, when I'm dealing with a type like Mark, I'll just push it out a little bit more. And so that's, I think you have to fall to get back up again. And I'm so grateful that I'm part of a team, from being a cadet to being at Milford, to hear where the people around me have allowed me to fail and not criticize me and say, okay, how about try this better, rather than that was horrible, that's so stupid, you're so stupid, why did you do? No one at Barfoot and Thompson has spoken to me like that. So
I think, Stephen, if I can, from where Alana and I sit, it's very inspirational to sit here and listen to a young man talk about the future of where he and his age are taking real estate. We sit on the other side of the fence. We create the technology, and I think it's the future is bright for Barfoot and Thompson and yourself, Joseph. I think when you are embracing the tools that we are trying to evolve, and people like us, so that you guys can make sure in the next 10, 20, 30 years you are evolving yourselves as well.
That's right.
A pleasure to meet you.
It's been great.
So it's a good sort of wrapping question for all of you, and I'm curious from a Reapit perspective, but also what you're seeing in property managers. If we look ahead 5 years, what do you think will be the biggest change in how tenants, landlords and property managers interact with each other through technology?
Well, I think Joseph will have his own branch by then. That's the first thing I'd say.
No doubt about it.
Look, I think more self-service, more automation, more real-time visibility. The future of prop tech is not more applications, more apps. It's just better connected workflows. And I think, as I said before, I think that's where people like you are taking it. Alana?
Yeah, I think where it really needs to go is making sure that as tech evolves, we don't just keep picking up other systems, because we've talked a lot about today not having yet another app. But the reality is that as AI and tech evolves, we are adding apps to our system, right? We've probably all added apps to our system just in the wake of AI, and the problem is that is just going to keep expanding. So I think in the next 5 years, what really needs to happen is that we are able to leverage all of this advancing technology, but make sure that we can still have that single view of our customers. Because if you don't have a single view of who your clients are, what they need, what they want, what's their propensity to sell that next property, you're losing the ability to win more and run your business better.
The property manager still matters enormously. It's still very critical to the workflow. The tools just make it easier.
Well, every aspect of this is still around people.
100%.
It's a people-centred job.
100%.
What's your thoughts?
If you told me 5 years ago I could talk to Claude or whatever AI for 2 minutes and it would build me a really amazing website that looks better than 90% of people's websites, I would have said, get out of here. So then if I'm thinking 5 years from now, the most wild side of my imagination is probably going to be maybe AI robots would be more accessible. If you could build a full-on website that would cost you 20 grand or more in 2 minutes. It's going to be maybe robots, but who cares? I'm open to whatever it looks.
It'll be a very exciting ride, that's for sure. We know that.
Definitely.
Funny you mentioned using AI to build your recipe. My parents are in their 90s in a retirement village, and just AI just, blows their mind. So one day we told AI to make us the best lasagna recipe it could ever find, and it had some really unusual ingredients, and they were so fascinated, and off I went into the supermarket, got exactly what it was, and oh my goodness, it was the best.
Wow.
And they were quite puzzled by this whole process. What do you love most about your jobs?
Innovation. Evolution of where technology is taking us. I think just 40 minutes chatting here and being so inspired, I say it again, by the youth of where they're taking it. The world is your oyster. Some of us were brought up on, pre-internet. So you talk about where are we in 5 years. I think 5 years will be a reflection of what we've been on over the last 50 years, at that exponential speed at which we can evolve using things like the tech and the intelligence that's at our fingertips these days. I do it because I'm fascinated by the technology and the way that we can in our area, in real estate, prop tech at least, evolve now at such rapid pace.
My favourite part is honestly just genuinely getting to help real people, whether you're helping tenants to find a better way to manage their rental, whether you're helping them to find that new home, or whether you're helping a landlord to understand their investment better. There's lots of things on both the side of the consumer as well as the property managers, and tech is really there just to support that even better.
Brilliant. Look, we're going to wrap it there. We are out of time. Thank you so much for travelling across the ditch. Joseph, tomorrow your company is celebrating Property Managers Day, and I believe these two are some of your guests, so go and have a fabulous day celebrating that. And thanks to all of you for coming on Property Matters.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks for listening in. Drive safely home. Of course, you can download all our podcasts from all your favourite podcast sites, including Apple, Samsung and iHeartRadio. Have a fabulous week. We'll catch you next week. Take care.